a second. One of our members, Isaiah, is on vacation today, so we're recording for Isaiah. Hi, Sophia. Oh, it's Sophie. It's Safe. Great.
Yeah, it's me.
We have a Sophia from Mexico in this class as well. Who else is here?
KW.
Or
Is that Kingsley?
must be Kingsley, yeah. Kingsley, is that you?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just going to turn my name into.
Glad you could join. So we're waiting for several other members. Well, I like to start as close to starting time as possible. So we'll back up a little bit when others join. So Matthew, do you like to start off? And
yeah, sure. So for starters, Rodrigo and Kingsley, do you guys want to share your lab book so far?
Hold on 1 second. Michael?
Yep.
Hi, Michael. I sent an email this morning asking if you could join at 9 o'clock.
Yep, got it.
The conflict, sorry. Okay. Hi, Paulina.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, sorry, Matthew. Go ahead.
No worries. Do we want to start by, I guess, sharing our lab books just to see like where we're at so far?
Sure. I think last week Rodrigo shared, so maybe Paulina, would you like to share today, or Kingsley? It's always a good idea when we start a meeting to review what's our problem, what's the mission, and review all the tricks we've learned. And it's good practice presenting.
Definitely.
Paulina? Paulina, I'm gonna unmute you. Yeah, I think Paulina's microphone may not be working. Kingsley, how about you? Kingsley, can you share your lab book and present the problem mission and the tricks we've documented so far? Kingsley, your microphone is muted.
I can't finish it because I have too much like classes and stuff.
Oh, okay, no worries. Paulina, is Paulina chatting? No. Hi, Isaiah.
Hi.
I know you missed last week, so we'll try to catch you up. Okay, Rodrigo, could you present again your lab book? Your lab book was really great last week, and it will be a good review for Isaiah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't really improve it a lot.
Great. No worries.
Python, by me. Lab book. The problem is that robots, as they develop,
Sorry, you cut out, Rodrigo. Could you say again? As they develop? Arg.
Could you hear me?
Oh, you cut out for just a second. Can you start again? The problem is robots as they develop?
They are taking over jobs of humans. And the mission is to become experts on Python and learn how to build great games to make people's life happier
Cool.
and easier.
Cool.
These are the primitives of programming.
Mm-hmm.
Here is kind of a timeline of languages. I think that last week you told me that I should add CSS and HTML, no?
Yes. Yeah. Well, Matthew suggested that that would be an important addition to this history of languages.
Okay.
Whenever you get the chance, that would be good.
Yeah. Because this is a really excellent PowerPoint lab book. Rodrigo will like to post this lab book on our project page to inspire other members.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Hi, Johnny. Welcome.
Hi.
Okay. So go ahead. Go ahead, Matthew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is a really good lab book. I think one thing, last week we went over Python classes, or specifically not classes, sorry, data types. And I think, real quick, I will share the last slide of that because I think that would be something that would be nice to add into your own lab books.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Matthew. Let's make sure, let's give everyone some time to document this, Matthew.
Right. And if you're not sure how to do screenshots on Windows, the easiest way is if you go onto your search, you type snipping tool. This is a super useful thing where if you just press new on the upper left, then you can select whatever it is you want to screenshot. So click and drag, and you let go, it'll give you a picture, which you can right click and copy into your PowerPoint. So yeah, really nice and easy way to get screenshots so you can just put them into your lab book.
Okay. But sometimes I find it useful to retype because it helps me remember. If I take a screenshot of it, it's good reference for sure, but you may not remember it. So who remembers or who can explain what the three data types are in your own words? Why is it, when do we use these different data types? Rodrigo, can you?
Well, the booleans, the binary,
Yep. Yep.
that is true or false. You can make like operations in binary.
Yep.
Then text, that is called string here.
In Booleans, you can use logic conditions in your programming, in your
Yes.
program flow. You can make things happen based on logic conditions. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
Then text, that is called string. You can like, for example, you can calculate with Python the length of a word. You can sum words and make them like stick. I'm not sure how to say it.
Yeah. You can.
Together,
Mhm.
or you can well, you need to add quotations for them to appear as words, as text.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it is not detected correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then numbers. Like they are normal numbers because you can do basic math operations like sums and divisions. You can do some things that are more advanced, like the exponents. You do like multiply a number itself a lot of times, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it can do math.
Great. And who knows what the difference between a floating point number and an integer? Johnny, have you studied that in math yet? In your math
Sorry.
courses?
I'm sorry, what is it?
So what's the difference between an integer number and a floating point number?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, all right, Matthew, you like to quickly summarize for everyone? I think Rodrigo did an excellent job.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the only things, yeah, so the difference between an integer and a floating point number is that integers just don't have decimals at the end and floating point numbers do. So like -17 is an integer, 34.2 is a floating point number. So yeah, that's really the only difference, and Python handles those slightly differently. The only other thing I think that Rodrigo didn't talk about was indexing, which is actually a pretty important concept that we're going to go a little bit more into today. But indexing is basically just you being able to take out certain letters out of a word by putting a number in square brackets next to the word. So the very first letter of the word, in this case, is O, and we get it with a 0. So orange brackets 0 gives us O. And the second letter is 1, the third letter is 2, fourth letter is 3, and so on. You can also use negative numbers. That's a little more rare, but it might come up. And then you can also do ranges of numbers. So yeah, indexing, super important concept, and it's going to be extra important today. So make sure you know what's going on there.
Matthew has in mind introducing you to a trivia game similar to the game we make in Scratch, but this time we're going to make it in Python.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Actually, yeah, should I show that off now?
Sure, sure. So here's where we're going, guys. We're learning Python in order to create a game, and our first game is going to be a trivia game.
So yeah, this is a really quick template I made for a fun trivia game that's actually relatively simple. So basically the way it works, I'm just going to run it. This is in a Python document. So if I go to the top and I hit run and then run module, it'll open up the console and then it'll ask a question. In this case, the question is, what's my favorite color? Now, I happen to know what my favorite color is, so I'm going to put in the answer, which is green. And if I hit enter, it returns correct, which means I got it right. Right? And then, yeah, so that's essentially it. If I run it again, it'll ask a different question. What's the fifth planet from the sun? Now, if I get it incorrect, if I say it's Mars, for example, it'll tell me I'm incorrect. Does anyone know the correct answer to this question? Any astronomers here?
There is Venus closest to the sun, and then Mars, Earth. Wow. Who can Google that? Venus, Mars, Earth. I think I'm missing one there. Someone must know. What's the fifth planet from the sun?
Do they not teach this in school anymore?
Kingsley, do you know?
Yes.
The fifth planet from the sun.
Yes, here's a hint. It's also the biggest planet.
Oh,
Jupiter?
Jupiter, exactly. Good job.
all
Yeah,
right.
so
Very
we can
good.
actually see in the code here. You could have cheated a little bit, but you see Jupiter is listed as the answer for what's the fifth planet from the sun. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go really quickly over how this works, and then we'll talk about data structures after this. So basically, the way it happens is it picks a random question from this list. I have a list of questions here, and this is stored in something called a list. It's a Python data structure. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. And then the corresponding answers are in the second list here. And what happens down here is it picks a random question number using some functions that we imported. And then it'll print out whatever question that was randomly selected. So yeah, this prints out the question. Also, all of this stuff in gray is just comments. So it means that it's not actually part of the code. This is just me explaining what's happening in the code. And the comments are marked with a hashtag symbol or a pound symbol. So you can use that to sort of explain what's going on in your own code. It happens to me all the time. Like if I'm writing complicated code, I might forget like what a certain variable or something is supposed to do. And comments can actually help with that quite a lot. So if you explain what's going on in your code, it's not only going to help other people that are reading your code, it's going to help you later down the road. So definitely comments are good. Sort of tells the story of your code. But yeah, then it just prints down the question here. And then it asks for the user's input using this input function here. So I have input, parentheses, answer, and that's what happens here. And then the user can actually type in whatever they want. And then whatever they type will get stored in this user input variable. And then it checks if the user input is equal to the answer that we have up here, then it'll print out correct. And if it's not equal, which is an else statement, I think Jang will talk about if else kind of stuff later, then it'll print incorrect. So this code's actually really simple. If I deleted all of the comments, it would be down to like maybe 10 lines or so. So it's a relatively lightweight piece of code. And yeah, I think we'll send this over to you guys so you can maybe fill in your own questions, and then we'll be able to actually improve on this and make it even better down the road by like making multiple choice questions, having it so it can ask you multiple questions, and then there's like a score, like how many you got right and how many you got wrong. And yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Matthew, I wonder if we need to make sure everyone has Python installed.
Yeah, that's actually totally fair. We went over this a little last week, but has anyone had any problems getting Python installed? Yes, speak now
Okay.
or forever hold your peace.
Guys, we need yay or nay, yes or no.
I wasn't in the meeting last week. And I downloaded a Python. I'm not sure if it is like correct or not.
Okay. Did you get it from the Python website?
It was on my computer like from a while ago. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, cool. So if you go to your programs and you scroll down, do you have a Python folder?
I'm using my MacBook right now. Is it okay?
I see. Yeah, that's totally fine. So is there a way to like search what programs you have?
Yeah. I can find a Python launcher. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look up idle, actually, idle is what we're going to be using for this course.
Well, I think I don't think.
And that
I
should
don't think I
come
can find that
naturally.
in the
if you install it.
application. Well, I can find a Python launcher in the application folder, but it's a bit different.
I think it is slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. I'll just go to my Windows computer then.
Okay, yeah, that might be a little easier.
Yeah.
It should work on both. Like,
So
actually, yeah, Jerry
I
has
also
Mac, right?
I also use Mac computer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you can go to the applications and there will be a Python 3.8 or Python 3.6. That depends on your version. And when you click the right bottom of your mouse and open a new tab, and it will go to the folder and there will be an IDLE. Yeah, I will, yeah. I can also share my screen if you have some problem.
Because yeah, please share your screen because
Okay, no problem.
The Python launcher, which I have no idea what it means.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, here. So yeah, so you can go to the application. Yeah, when you install Python, so in your application, there will be a Python 3.8 or 3.6. That's very same with Windows system. And you can right click the mouse and open a new tab. And then there will be IDLE. Yeah, here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Python 3.7 folder with an application, and then yeah.
That should still work.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I found it.
Okay. No
Nice.
problem. Okay. Good job.
Paulina, do you have Python installed? Paulina, can you?
Yes.
You're okay?
Yes.
Great. Rodrigo, I know you're okay. Kingsley, do you have Python installed? How about you, Isaiah?
I don't know which one should I click on because it'll have it like a.
Can you share your screen and let's go through this again, Matthew, because Isaiah missed last week. So, yeah.
Okay.
Kingsley, can you share your screen and we'll guide you through it?
Okay. So I can't like this one. But which one should I like?
Yeah, so the very first one, idle. Yeah, and it looks like you have it open already. Cool. So yeah, within that window, you can just type like whatever Python commands you want. All right, cool. So,
Stop
are
share.
we missing anybody? I guess Isaiah wasn't here last week, so he's still setting that up. Isaiah, do you have Python ready to go yet, or no?
I'm using my dad's phone that I don't have the PowerPoint, so I can't do anything. But I know I installed Python, but it's not on his phone, it's on his computer.
I see. Yeah, so whenever you get access to a computer, definitely try and install Python. If you just Google like Python install, it should be pretty easy to get. All right, so I think that's everybody.
Good.
All right. So yeah, this week we're going to go over data structures. Open that up. All right. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. This week we're going to go over data structures, which is another super important fundamental like Python concept, and it's going to help you keep your things organized, like this drawer. So yeah, I think the importance of data structures, like you can see here, like let's pretend we're using Python as our backpack, right? We have a bunch of things we want to put into our backpack. We got like our snacks, our pencils, our paper, our scissors, and markers. So one way we can do that is we're going to make separate variables for each of them. So actually, I don't know if I necessarily covered variables last week. They're relatively simple though. I don't know if you guys have done any algebra, but essentially what I can do is, let's say my variable is x, and I want to set it equal to 5. So all I do is type x equals 5, and then hit enter, and it sets that as the variable. It's like y equals 8. And then if I tell it to do like x plus y, it'll give you 5 plus 8, which is 13. So variables you can just use as like other names for different things. So in this case, what we're doing is we're taking 5 variables. They're called item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. And we're setting them each equal to a string. Now, that's a lot of variables, and that might get hard to keep track of. So an easier way to do it is by using a data structure. So we say items, which will be all 5 items, set that equal to snacks, pencils, paper, scissors, markers. And that way we're kind of organizing them all and putting them into like one nice backpack and keeping them organized. Yeah. So that's kind of why we need data structures. They're just useful to keep everything together in one place. Yeah, so there are actually 2 basic Python data structures, only 2. Data types, we had 3. Here, there's only 2. There's sequences and there's mappings. And we'll start off with sequences. In Python, these are like best implemented as lists. So basically a sequence is just a bunch of items. They have an order. It's kind of like a shopping list, I guess. Like there's an order of items on your list. You can read them top to bottom. There's other ways to do it, but in Python, we just use lists. So the way we create lists is with square brackets. So I'm going to say my list is equal to like apple, banana, orange. And yeah, then it's stored as my list. If we call it again, oops, it'll output apple, banana, orange. We can put anything we want in these lists, really. We can say my num list. We can put in like integers. We can even put in floats. Like we can actually mix things up within the list. It's a little weird and not recommended usually, but we can do it if we want. And another weird thing we can do is we can actually put lists inside of lists. So my big list, we're gonna use square brackets. The first thing in this big list we'll say is my list. And the second one is my num list. We hit enter. And then we see what happens. We have this kind of super list that has 2 lists inside of it. So really we can put whatever we want in lists, which is pretty cool. All right. And if you guys remember earlier, I mentioned we're going to be using indexing again here. And I think here it makes a little bit more sense than it did for strings. So let's say, for example, we're looking at my list again, and we want to get the first item off of the list. All we have to do is type my list, square bracket, 0, close, enter. We get apple as the first item from the list. And then if I wanted to get the third item on the list, we go 2. Oh, give me orange. Yeah, so this is sort of a more practical application of the indexing thing that we talked about last week. And we can also change items within the list using this. So let's say I wanted to change the orange to, like, I don't know, grapefruit. So we access the orange with my list, square brackets 2, and then we're going to set it to grapefruit. And we set things to other things using a single equal sign. So yeah, now it's set to grapefruit. And if I pull up my list again, make sure you don't do typos. Now the third item is no longer orange. We changed it to grapefruit.
Sorry, Matthew. So
Yeah.
I just saw the PowerPoint page on your computer. So are you editing on your editor?
Oh, my goodness. All right. Yeah, that's my bad. I thought I was sharing my whole screen.
Oh,
Let me do that. Okay. Wow. I apologize. I'm going to go back and maybe retry some stuff.
okay.
All right. Okay. Can you guys see my Python now? Are we good?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So as I was saying before, we create new lists using a variable name. So we're going to call the list my list. Then we use square brackets. And then we can put whatever we want in this list. Maybe some fruits, apple, orange, banana. Hit enter, and then it stores that list inside of its memory. So if we ever want to get the list again, all we have to do is just type the name of the list and hit enter. Then it'll output whatever's in our list. And then, yeah, we can change items on the list. Like first we can access items on the list. So the very first item we can get with indexing. So square brackets 0, hit enter, that'll give us the first item. If I want to get the third item, square brackets 2, that'll give us the third item, banana. Now let's say I wanted to change the banana to something else. So all I gotta do is type my list 2. So this would usually output banana, but instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it equal to something else. So change it to a cherry this time. So we set it equal to cherry. I hit enter, doesn't output anything, but if I look at the list again, we're typing my list, we get apple, orange, cherry. Cool. Does this make sense so far? Hopefully, you guys can also feel free to follow along on your own Python. If you just type whatever I'm typing, you should get the same results. If you get something different, let me know, and then we can see if we can figure out what's happening. But yeah, if you're doing this yourself on your own computer, it'll help you sort of remember and internalize what's happening. Okay. Cool. So the next thing we can do is we can add items to lists. So right now we're sort of locked into a 3-item list. And the way we can add more items to it is we type my list, then .append. And then it'll actually give us some help as to what to do here. So it tells us here that it'll append object to the end of the list. So let's append strawberry here. And don't forget the quotation marks, otherwise it won't recognize it as a string. All right, so then I hit enter, no response, but if I ask it what my list is, it'll give us a new list with strawberry at the end. Cool. So another thing we can do, if we don't want to put it at the end, we want to put it maybe in the 3rd position. So we'll say mylist.insert, and it'll give us a hint here. So it wants us to put the index and then the object. So if we want to put it in the third position, the index is 2. And then the object, we can put in another fruit. What other fruits are there? Let's see, we'll go with a kiwi this time. So we'll insert a kiwi into the third position. We hit enter, no response. But if I ask it what my list is, we have this new list. It has kiwi inserted into this third spot. But otherwise the order stays the same. All right, now let's say I want to take kiwi back. Like I don't want kiwi on there. So there's a couple ways you can do this. We can go mylist.remove and then kiwi. We look at it again. It'll be gone. So now let's say I wanted to remove cherry. One way I can do that is by using a pop command. So all I have to do is type the index of whatever I want to remove. So mylist.pop2 will remove cherry because it's the second index and the third number. And it'll actually return cherry because that's what came off the list. But if we look at the list, cherry is now gone. Right? And then last but not least, we can actually add lists together. So if I add my list to my list, we get a list that's sort of the two lists kind of smashed together. So we have apple, orange, strawberry, then apple, orange, strawberry again. They're combined into one list though. Okay, I know this is a lot of like commands and stuff, and it's gonna be very hard to remember. We'll have another cheat sheet at the end. But does this make sense? Does all of what I've done so far like make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I know this is a little difficult to grasp, but I think down the road you'll definitely understand it a lot more. Okay, and yeah, I have another slide here about indexing. This is essentially the exact same thing that we did for strings. You can get multiple items if you put a colon. There's negative indexes. Yeah. So this is just to help you like sort of understand what's going on. All right. So the second and final type of data structure is a mapping. So the way mappings work is they don't have an order. In lists, we have like a very specific order that doesn't change at all. In mappings, that's not really true. So we can think of like a mapping like a dictionary. Basically, for every entry in our mapping, there's a key and a value. So like, you know how in dictionaries there's words and then the definition of the words? In a mapping, it's sort of the same way. And in Python, we call these dictionaries. All right, so I'm gonna open up a new window just to clear things out, make it look a little nicer. All right, so the way we make a dictionary, pretty similar to how we make a mapping. It's gonna be my dict, short for dictionary, and then we use curly brackets. Yeah, by the way, so curly brackets and square brackets on the keyboard, they're kind of on the top right. They should be next to the P key. And pretty close to like your backspace and enter keys. So yeah, pressing it without pressing shift makes a square bracket, then pressing it with shift makes a curly bracket. All right, so my dict equals curly bracket. So let's see. What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually use this to describe a person. So person, well, every person has a name. So in this case, we're gonna have a key of name, and then make sure you put your quotation marks. So the key is name, then we put a colon, and I guess the definition of the name or the value, and it says Matthew. I'll be the person in this case. All right, so that's the first entry of our dictionary. So name, Matthew. And then the second entry, we'll say age, colon, and then I'm 20. So I'm gonna put 20 there. And remember, we can mix like data types here. So in this case, 20 is an integer. Right? And then we'll say hobby, colon, go, programming. Just like that. All right. And then if we want to finish the dictionary, we put another curly bracket. It'll highlight the whole thing gray, just to like show that it's complete. And then if I hit enter, it stores that in its memory. So if I call up person again, it'll output the same thing. Okay. So now let's say I wanted to access what's inside of this. So it's sort of like indexing. What I'm gonna do is, let's say I wanted to find this person's name. So what I do is I type person, then I use the square bracket, I put in name, and I hit enter. Now I'll put Matthew. If I wanted to find this person's age, square bracket, age, 20. All right, so yeah, we unfortunately can't do the order thing that we did last time. If I wanted to find the first part of this dictionary, it gets upset at me. We need to input whatever the key values are. So the keys in this case are name, age, and hobby. So we can put any of those in the square brackets and it'll output something. Anything else and it'll get upset. Okay, so now we can do a similar thing that we did with lists. If I want to change something in here, let's say I grew a year older. So what I'll do is I'll set person age equal to 21. All right, now if I look up the person, the age changed to 21. All right, so let's say I want to add something to this, because you know, people have more than 3 attributes. So let me add my shoe size. So person shoe size, we're gonna set that equal, I think on size 10.5. So we put that in there, hit enter. And it doesn't get upset because actually what it did was it just added a new category to our dictionary. So in addition to our name, age, hobby, we now have shoe size of 10.5. Right? Now, let's say, you know, I think shoe size is a silly thing to judge a person off of. So what we can do is we can actually remove it with pop, and sort of gives us some help there. But we're going to put in the shoe size. And what that does, it'll give us what it is, but then it's gone off of the dictionary. Okay. I think that's all I actually wanted to cover for dictionaries. Yeah, these are pretty versatile, but they're definitely a little bit more confusing than lists, just because you have 2 things to keep track of for every entry instead of just 1. So does this kind of make sense? Does anyone have any questions here?
And can you show in your code, Matthew, where you use lists and where you use dictionary in the
Yeah, certainly.
code? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in our trivia game, I didn't use a dictionary, but they will be useful if we do multiple choice.
Great.
So for here, all I have 2 lists. So this first list is just a list of questions. So separated by commas. So the first element is what's 2 plus 2. Second element, what's my favorite color? And then the answers are like so. And the way I use these lists later on in the code is I have questions, open bracket, question num. And question num is just a number that's in between 0 and 2 that we got randomly. So what it's doing is if question num is 0, then it's going to print questions open bracket 0, which should give us the first element of questions. What's 2 plus 2? It'll give us that as our question. Yeah, and then we do a similar thing all the way down here where we pull up the answer. So answers, open bracket, question number. So that'll give us the same answer that corresponds to our question. So this is, I guess, a pretty important way to use indexing, is to get like a matching question and answer for our trivia game.
Great. Great. Okay. Matthew or Jen, would you suggest a quick assignment we could give them maybe for the class, and then an assignment for next week? I was thinking they should change the questions and answers, make their own questions and answers, and maybe expand the list so that there's 5 questions instead of only 3.
Yeah, that would be good.
That's fairly simple.
Yeah.
Is there another assignment we could give to or maybe that's sufficient. If they get that, they will have had to install Python, yeah, maybe that's update their lab books, of course.
Right, right.
Okay, I'm writing an email, guys, to everyone, and I'll in the email is the assignment for next week, some tips and resource materials. So Rodrigo, can you send me your lab book, and I'll attach your lab book to this email to everyone on the team? Your lab book is kind of the model of what to do. And then Matthew, can you also send me your PowerPoint lesson, and I'll include that in the email.
Sure. I think I sent it to you yesterday, actually.
Oh, right. Great. Okay, got it. Okay. All right, I'll send, Matthew has 3 PowerPoints. I'll put all 3 of Matthew's PowerPoints, Python PowerPoint, in this email I'm sending to everyone. So if anyone's missed a session, you should have all the resource materials that we've presented. And I'll also put links to YouTube of this week's class and last week's class. Okay. Jen, anything you'd like to add, or
yeah.
any
So,
perspective?
Matthew, so you've finished teaching your PowerPoint? I remember
Yes.
there. Okay, no problem. Okay, I can add
actually,
some. Yeah,
real quick.
I thought there was one last page.
Yeah, so
Maybe
the
I
last
can.
page is just the cheat sheet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, it'll also, since John's sending out the email, you should be able to find this and then put it in your lab book. It basically just covers all of the different functions we went over and how you can use them.
Yeah, so Matthew gave us a lot of example about mapping and array, and there is a very interesting game. So next, our project will be an image processing project. So I will do some demo maybe right now, and make sure that you all know what's our projects for. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, so our next journey is for image processing. So imagine that we have a lot of images and we want to modify our image. For example, so here is our source code. There is a little bit complex, but no worry, I will explain to you later. And right now we just learn how the code stands for and what's the effect for the code. And when I run the code, for example, like this, after I run the code and I zoom to that file, and here, okay, let me open that file. So I just download a photo from Build It Yourself. So here is the existing original photo. And if we use our Python, we can modify our photo to the different effect. For example, comparing with the top one and the bottom one, it will be sharpened. And else we can also make our photo even be blurred. So here you can see that we have a lot of effect on our code. So our project will be learn a lot of image processing toolkit, how our image will look like after our design and our code in Magic. So talking about how our array map related with the code, so you can solve from this photo, yeah, here. Yeah, here. Yeah, so every photo will be consist with pixels, and the pixels will be converted to the different number. So the number within the range of 0 to 255, and the smaller of the number, the darker it will be. So that means 0 stands for black, and 255 stands for white. So each photo can be converted with just a number. So that's interesting. So the numbers could not be unordered. The number should have an order. That's how Matthew's array functions help this system. So we can assign the photos as different number, and then we should use array to organize them. So for example, here, okay. So I will make some annotations on that photo. Yeah. Yeah, you can see this photo, we can use the array to include every of the number. For example, here is an array, and the array, so the first number is 157, and the second number is 153, and the third number, and to the last number, yeah. So we can just, so the last number will be 218. So that stands for human. So we learn photo by how it looks like here. But for computer, so computer only can understand code. So we can, the computer learn the image like this one. So we will use the, so this is a very magic functions. We can just convert the photos, the images to the number array. And then after we get this magic number, we can change and modify these numbers, and it will have the different effects that maybe that could be blur or something else. So for example, click my drawing. And, yeah, here. So you can solve from these 6 photos. So it can be different effect after we modify the number. So our second project, we will learn the image processing toolkit, and we will do a project, and then you can design your own style, and you can design your own ideas how you want the photo looks like after your idea. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, anyone have problems for that? Or, yeah. So talking about the, okay. Yeah, so talking about the code, you can see that here you might think that's too difficult, but when you just zoom in to some part of the code, like here, so that's totally array. And also you can, when you saw here, you saw the curve bracket. So here is the dictionary. So here is the maps. So yeah, no worry. So we will just learn the code, and you will write the code by yourself with me together. So yeah, that's our image processing project later.
Great. Thank you, Jeng.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. This is not easy stuff, as Matthew has said several times. Um, it's generally not taught until you get into college. So you guys are way ahead of the curve. But be patient. Be patient and keep trying. Okay, you'll get an email from me tomorrow morning. And Rodrigo, could you please send me your lab book?
Yes, I am only going to improve it a little bit.
Great. Okay, just send me it later tonight so I can send this email out tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Okay, guys, have a good week. Assignment for next week: update your lab books, and secondly, edit Matthew's code so that you can change the questions. Matthew's code will be in the email I'm sending you tomorrow morning. Matthew, can you send me that file, please?
Yeah, I think that's in the same email as the PowerPoint that I sent you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, also just sort of an extra challenge if you're feeling up for it is maybe see if you can use a dictionary to create multiple choice questions so that maybe like instead of you just type in whatever answer, like they'll have to pick between A, B, C, or D. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated and we'll go over maybe how to do it next week, but give it a try this week and see if you can come up with a way to do it.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Jeng.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Kingsley. Bye, Isaiah. Bye, Paulina.
Bye.
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 Okay. Great, Matthew. It is difficult to get these guys engaged. I think we have some kids who are quite young and some that are older, so the dynamics are a little difficult.
Yeah, that's fair.
We might want to split this group up. I'm not sure. I'm concerned about they don't seem to answer questions, you know? I mean, we ask fun questions and hard questions. What's the fifth planet? And they just, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, one of them eventually answered it after I gave a hint.
Kingsley, yeah. But they should all know that. I mean, they can easily Google it.
Right.
But that's just an example. You know, I think we asked a couple of times to who wants to share their lab books. Not sure what we can do. I really like the project. I mean, I think it's as simple as a Python project can be, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Matthew, thank you for your good work. Your PowerPoints are excellent. Really excellent.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jeng.
Bye, John.
Bye, Jeng. Thank you. Oh, Jeng, can you give me a quick summary of what you were planning to do for Ricky over the next month? You said you were going to expand the Python program that you were doing with David and Lion.
Yeah, sure. Okay, no problem.
Or you could email it to me if you like. Just want to get a sense for how many weeks your project, your Python project could engage kids.
Okay, it's about 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
6 to 8.
Totally. Yeah, very similar with the last project.
Okay, so all total, we have 3 Python projects.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the bees, and then the image processing,
And the navigation
and then the navigation.
project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the birds and the bees project, are you, I got a sense maybe that was not a good project to lead with, or am I wrong?
Sorry, what you mean?
The game, the first game project that you introduced,
Uh-huh.
birds and excuse me, the bees and the ants.
Yeah, the bees and the ants, yeah.
That's the first Python course, right? For 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's easier compared with the last 2 one. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna have 3 8-week courses.
Yeah, so the first one that will be easier,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's maybe like a lion to judge whether they can go to the difficult one or easier one. So yeah, and it will be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, 3 8-week projects, and may I ask roughly? I think we said 3 to 4 hours for the ants and the bees.
Yeah.
Is it 6 to 8 hours for the other two? Six hours per project. 6 hours for the image processing, and another 6 hours or more.
You mean 6 hours for teaching or preparing?
Development for developing, creating
Oh,
points and.
oh yeah. So for David and Lion's project, that will also take the similar time. Yeah. So that's also maybe 2 or 3 to 4 hours for the 8 hours project. So
Okay.
less than, yeah. So
Okay,
that's like,
I'm gonna say roughly 4 hours of work to create an 8-hour project.
yeah, yeah, yes.
Is that reasonable? I'm gonna actually say 6 hours, because I have a feeling you're putting in more hours.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jang. Jang, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, hi, Tomisi, Michael. Sorry. Oh, hi, Lucian.
Hi,
Great,
John.
Hey,
great. Sorry, guys. I was making some email here. Didn't realize the time. So, Lucian, let's and Tomisi, we want to get the project section. Tomisi and Lucian, do you want to? Tomisi, can you give us an update on where you are with the project posting?
Yeah. So I can like add in a project and update a project. I having some trouble with the delete right now, but like I've made some test projects. And then if I want to make a new one,
Great.
mm,
Can you add some feedback when you hit the finish button, even if it's only a sound? Or
yeah, I can add the feedback.
so how come it didn't increase the project number there?
I am not sure. Sorry. Yeah, it was working like 5 seconds ago. I don't.
There we go.
Yeah, so I think it might be.
Okay.
Cool. Tomisi, did you end up getting that email that I sent to you yesterday about numbering?
Yeah.
Sweet. Did you like which method or which like of those two options do you think you want to go for?
For I think the timestamp one, the first
Yeah,
one.
well, yeah, both of those are timestamp ones.
Yeah.
Just one of them is on front end, one of them's on back end. The one on back end might actually require more front end changes than the one where you generate the timestamp on the front end, but I just wasn't sure if that's possible for you.
Okay. So why do you think it would cause more backend changes?
Yeah, so if I'm if I were to generate a timestamp for the backend, essentially I have to match the timestamp of the whatever object is uploaded to whatever information is there so that you can actually retrieve both of them, right? Because you still have to retrieve those objects ultimately. So basically what I was thinking is either if I'm going to do it, I would need to generate the timestamp for like the S3 object, for example, and then use that timestamp as the timestamp for the database. So what would happen is essentially I would have a function that would automatically take that timestamp from the S3 object and use it to initially create an entry in the database that would be like username and timestamp. It would just have those two fields, but essentially that would initialize that spot in the database. And then you would be able to update that spot with all of your fields that were necessary. But what would happen is you would have to wait for that to happen. You would have to wait for the database entry to get put into the database. And then you would be able to run the update request to you would be able to access the update function and put in whatever fields you need, which means that you would have to delay that update request until you were able to essentially until that entry in the table was made. And then the second option is where you generate that timestamp on the front end. And I believe since you're working with ES6 and JS, I believe that you have access to that highlighted method, which returns the timestamp. And so you could potentially generate that on the front end and then just use that as the, like you could replace whatever you're using for